Right. They're all set in the whole room, right? They don't need anything
Yeah.
from me.
You know what percentages? No.
I don't know.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Six, shouldn't it be eight?
No, it's six.
Oh,
Kashmir. It's been a long disputed matter in the politics of South Asia. Two major countries which are very powerful in the region, India and Pakistan, each believe that Kashmir should be a part of their state, or rather their country. And it's been a debate that started during the partition of 1947. And recently it's escalated due to Narendra Modi's decision to revoke Article 370 and split Kashmir into two union territories, Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. Now, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? Yes, I believe that the current situation in Kashmir would be the main cause for a regional war taking place. This is because three major powerful countries in the region, Pakistan, China, and India, each have a certain stance on this current situation. Let's start with Pakistan. As I mentioned previously, Pakistan believes that Kashmir should be a part of the state. And after PM Modi has revoked Article 370 and has split Kashmir into two states, Pakistan has started giving violent threats. In an article posted by the Times of India on 30th November, titled "Countries Backing India Will Be Hit by Missiles," I quote, "If tensions with India rise on Kashmir, Pakistan will be compelled to go to war. Hence, these countries backing India and not Pakistan are our enemies." Another article by Washington Post on the 9th of September, titled "India-Pakistan Relations, Kashmir Autonomy." Both of these articles, the quote especially, shows how Pakistan is willing to go to war on this topic. It is strongly believing that India is unilaterally making the decisions on Kashmir and not talking, or rather not discussing this problem with Pakistan. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that a regional war will take place. I believe that Pakistan will be the one to instigate this war based on these threats already given. The second country I would like to talk about is China. China, as we all know, is an ally of Pakistan. It has been doing a lot of trades and is basically an ally, as I mentioned, of Pakistan. It has a similar take on Kashmir. On an article posted on the 31st of October by Reuters titled "India-China Clash over Kashmir," Chinese Foreign Minister Liang Shuang quoted saying China deplores and firmly opposes the decision in Kashmir. This is awful and void and does not change the fact that the land is under China's control. This is related to the land of Ladakh, which India changed into a union territory, and also took some of China's land into that union territory. And another article was on the 17th of October, titled India Pretending to Get Along with China. Mr. Xi, which is the leader of China, or rather the president, said he was concerned about the situation in Kashmir and supported Pakistan's stance. This shows, or rather these two articles prove that China is willing to back Pakistan on its threats. So, due to its being an ally of Pakistan, it believes that Kashmir should be a part of Pakistan's country, and that it shouldn't be unilaterally, or rather the decision to separate to separate Kashmir should not be unilaterally made by India. And thirdly, the country of India. In an article posted on the 10th of October by Times of India titled "India Divides Kashmir," this article shows that India wants more control over Kashmir. It wants Kashmir to be a part of its land due to after the 1947 partition. India is trying to get a firmer hold in Kashmir, and it is doing that by breaking it into two union territories, or rather, that's what Narendra Modi believes. However, due to the backlash received due to this decision by Pakistan and China, a regional trade war is guaranteed. It's very common, and due to one, the violent threats made by Pakistan. Two, China being an ally of Pakistan and supporting its stance. And three, India requiring and needing a firmer hold on Kashmir. I believe that regional war taking place in South Asia will be caused by the current situation in Kashmir. Thank you. Where do I put this? There?
What, the card? I don't know. What are you supposed to do with it? I don't think I have instruction.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to take it with you. So just take it to me and I'll
Thank you.
dispose of it however I'm supposed to. You don't know what you're supposed to. Stand over it.
Yeah, you can say.
Does the time start when I start?
This one?
Do you have to stop it and reset it? Does that work? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Let's do it. I mean, I'll take the time to compose myself, so.
Okay. That's right. Hold it
Hold it
down.
down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nearly 20 years ago, US President Bill Clinton said that Kashmir was the most dangerous place in the world, and by many metrics, it still is. Kashmir is a disputed territory in South Asia, with claims on the land being made by the governments of India, Pakistan, and China. It is to South Asia much what Palestine is to the Middle East. It has been this way since 1947, when the British withdrew from South Asia and let the governments of India and Pakistan make claims to the land. So to answer the question of if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? I must emphatically say yes. This is because of several of India's policies, the long-lasting tension and religious hostility, and the potential for Chinese involvement. To address India's policy regarding Kashmir, an October 31st report from BBC says how the Indian government redacted Article 370. This article is what gave Kashmir a semi-autonomous power, much like what Hong Kong had and still has. A BBC report from September 20th mentions brutality from the Indian government. They have had several surgical strikes into Kashmir which have affected Pakistanis, and they have also had pellet guns used which cause blindness among the people they are used for. A CNN report from September 27th mentions the cutting off of communications in Kashmir by the Indian government. Essentially, this means that they caused a total communications blackout, cutting off the internet and the telecom services, leaving people with no means of communication with the outside world. They also have imposed a curfew. Secondly, the long-lasting tensions, in part due to religion. Kashmir is a territory with over 14 million people, 8 million Muslims and 6 million Hindus, says BBC on the 31st of October. Because of this, because of the tensions between the two religious groups, which is exacerbated by Modi's Hindu government, this has caused tensions, which the media likes to spin simply as if it would be a game of cricket. However, this is no game of cricket, as both countries, according to the BBC on September 20th and Foreign Policy on September 19th, have nuclear weapons. The potential for a nuclear spillover in Kashmir is very high. Foreign Policy argument article on September 19th also states how both countries have an incredibly low median age, with more than half the population in India being below the age of 28. This means that a large portion of the population does not remember the brutal and bloody wars that took place between India and Pakistan over Kashmir in the late 1900s. Thirdly, the involvement of China presents a distinct challenge to the situation regarding Kashmir. On the Times of India report from November 1st, Beijing, the headline being, India says, don't comment on internal affairs to China. Essentially, what this means is India is intimidated by China's threat to the Ladakh region in Kashmir, which has over 300,000 Buddhists. Beijing says that India violated their sovereignty over the region, according to the same Times of India article on November 1st. And this is why they're becoming more influential. So, in summary, if a regional war were to occur, the current situation in Kashmir would be the main cause because of India's policies, which are highly controversial, the long-lasting tensions and the religious tensions, and the possible involvement of China. While there are many things to get riled up about in South Asia, like perhaps a game of cricket, or climate change and the growing rise of pollution in many Indian cities, Kashmir remains the biggest, most volatile subject in South Asia for both Indians and Pakistanis, Hindus and Muslims. The controversial nature of Kashmir means it is really hard to address this problem, although we can be thankful that the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has made several attempts at peace in speeches to the UN, according to a BBC article on October 31st. So, will Indians and the Indian government be able to see their Muslim neighbors as friends, or will they let religion and media guide them blindly as they plunge the region into chaos?
You know what you're supposed to do with these cards?
Do you want to take them?
I don't.
No, you can just keep them if you want.
I mean, it's gonna be irrelevant.
Previously in Pakistan, we used to put out. Recycling.
You just throw it out.
And we can give you the question.
Yeah, just go
I
ahead.
circle the one way. Do you want me to run their names?
No, I'm not using them, just like,
It's contraband.
yeah.
Can I get everything from the other room?
Maybe yourself.
You need to stay in the room.
We can get it later. It's fine.
No, I just need that fan link. I will give it to you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's the one that I was considering.
How do you do so?
Mine is pretty long, so
That's in your rules, right? You know, that is,
So I was.
Yeah.
So I had 2 minutes left, and I was trying to solve things.
I realized. I think
It just has to be over 4 minutes and that's 6.
4:30. Oh, thank you.
Problems often have something or someone that causes them. This might even lead to something that could be violent and that could have a big impact. In this case, it would be a regional war that would be started because of the current situation of Kashmir. Now, my first point is, why is this war? Because everyone wants Kashmir. All the neighboring countries, from the Pakistani to the Indians. This war would start only because of these two, because they want this one state to be their territory. Now, how would this help them? This would just expand their territory, making them spread wider across the continent. An article published by the Washington Post on September 10th, the article called Pakistan, risk of accidental war with India over Kashmir. A quote states, Pakistani foreign minister warned Tuesday that Indians' illegal occupation of Muslim majority Kashmir could drive a nuclear-armed countries into an accidental war. This can show over a certain place, they could start a war so big that could have such a huge impact. This huge impact could not only affect India and Pakistan, but neighboring countries around them. Could have such a big impact that everybody would be impacted. Then again, in the same article, another quote states, tensions between Pakistan and its southeastern neighbor have been heightened since August 5th, when Indian government changed the status of Indian administration over Kashmir. This shows that both these countries are doing something or the other towards this, which will cause a major war outcome. And this will all be because they wanted this one country or state. Now, my second point is, how much of it is really Kashmir's fault? Now, some might say Kashmir has everything to do with it. Because of Kashmir, all of these wars will be started just because of Kashmir, just because Kashmir couldn't fit in with India. A foreign policy article published on September 26th called "Inside Kashmir: New Anti-Indian Resistance." A quote states, "Kashmir has been in panic since the Indian government decided to strip the valley of its authority. More than 2,000 Kashmiris have been arrested in the crackdown beginning August 4th. Now, this shows that Kashmir has a part to play, but they're not the cause. Both India and Pakistan are the causes of this war. And because of their actions in Kashmir, this war would take place. This war would have a giant impact. And it's only because these two countries have major causes in this state. Now, my third point is who is the fight between? Who will the fight be between? And which two countries will be the main to get in this war? I believe that these two would be India and Pakistan, neighboring countries for the state Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. Now, a quote from the Times of India published on October 28th, called "PM to take longer route to Saudi as Pakistan again denies airspace use." A quote states, "The neighboring countries' airspace was closed for overflying by all flights from Feb 27th. This shows that these two have been engaged in a war way before Jammu and Kashmir's topic even came up. They've had their similarities and differences ever since the partition, and we know that. And this would make a big impact because these are the two countries that are against each other from a really long time. In conclusion, I believe that if a regional war were to occur, it would be because of the current situation of Kashmir. Yeah. Thank you.
The time. He just finished this. What is that one?
In 1994, India's parliament adopted a resolution which demanded that Pakistan vacate the area of Jammu and Kashmir. India has also stripped Indian administrated Kashmir of autonomy recently, and in February launched airstrikes against militants in Pakistani territory. This is according to an article published on BBC on September 20th. This conflict and violence unfortunately raises the question, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? To which the answer would have to be yes, because of one, the explicit statements and threats from both parties, both the Pakistani government and the Indian government, Secondly, the suffering that Kashmir itself is experiencing. And thirdly, because of the young age of both Pakistan and India, the young median age of its population. So firstly, the explicit statements and threats from both parties towards each other regarding the conflict in Kashmir. According to an article on foreign policy published on September 19th, the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan stated that if the world does nothing to stop the Indian assault on Kashmir and its people, there will be serious consequences for the whole world as two nuclear armed states get closer to a direct military confrontation. And India, on the flip side, according to an article on BBC published on September 20th, said that they would have to reevaluate their no first use of nuclear weapons policy that has been long-standing. So this is clear threats coming from both sides, threatening something quite serious, which is a nuclear war that would happen because of the current situation in Kashmir and the conflict between the two countries. This brings me to my second point, that Kashmir itself is suffering consequences which will only increase the likelihood of regional conflict or regional war. On an article on CNN published on September 27th, it reported shortages of both food and medicine as well as riots in the streets of Kashmir. And this will do nothing to help the likelihood of there being a regional war because of this. My third point is that the young median age of both countries will also contribute to the likelihood of there being a war. The question itself being, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? You would have to assume that a regional war is likely to occur. And the fact that the median age, according to an article on foreign policy in September 19th, the median age in Pakistan is 24 and the median age in India is 28. These young populations mean that there is actually a likelihood of war between the two because of what's happening in Kashmir right now. In the past, we have seen this in the past with when countries forget about what war is like, it is romanticized, and people forget about the terror and destruction that war causes. And therefore, war is more likely to happen than if it is fresh in people's minds and they want to avoid it at all costs, which isn't the case right now with the young population in both these countries. As the average person in both of these countries will have forgotten the war that they had in 1965 and in 1971 when India turned East Pakistan into Bangladesh. This young Pakistani population, 61% of them said they consider India as a dangerous threat. This is compared to 55% that consider the Taliban a dangerous threat. And 95% of the Pakistani population consider India their worst enemy. So to conclude all of this, if a regional war were to occur, the current situation in Kashmir would be the main cause. Because firstly, explicit statements and threats were made from both parties because of the conflict in Kashmir. Secondly, Kashmir itself is suffering consequences because of the conflict between the two countries, which will only increase the likelihood of there being a war in the region. And thirdly, because of the young median age of both of these populations, causing them to forget the destruction and terror that war causes. All of these things together would mean that a regional war is likely to occur, and if it were to occur, this current situation in Kashmir would be the main cause. We just said.
Yeah.
Median age in India the median ages in India and Pakistan are 28 and 24 respectively. Therefore, people in India and Pakistan have not recently experienced wars that have occurred in the past. Thereby, many of Indian and Pakistani citizens do not remember the horrors and hardships of wars such as the 1995 conflict, the 1971 conflict, and ultimately the 1965 conflict. And in response to the question, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? I would argue yes, due to increased quantitative media rhetoric, increased public opinions to war, and the revocation of Kashmir's autonomy. In response to my first point, the foreign policy written on September 19th, 2019, states that people that Indian and Pakistani citizens are being polarized by news media companies through the capitalization on the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Media usage is promoting is using such attacks as a justification to go to war. Thereby, the quantity of state-controlled media rhetoric for war is being increased, and which is being induced by the city. We have seen a 36% increase in war support, as collected by a PEW survey, due to capitalization on certain events such as the deaths of 19 Indian soldiers in 2016 in the area of Kashmir. In response to my second point, PEW surveys in 2016 have indicated that 80% of Indians approve the justification of military action in Kashmir, whereas 76% of Indians saw Pakistan as the most significant threat to India, whilst 61% of Pakistanis saw that India was the largest threat to Pakistan. In response to my third point, in 2019, on the 5th of August 2019, the world witnessed the revocation of the Indian administrated Kashmir's autonomy. Hence, many people have responded, and such people would include Imran Khan, the leader of Pakistan. Here, he has specifically stated in his own essay posted to the Washington Post that if the world does nothing to stop the assault on Kashmir and its people, there will be consequences. And he further complements this by saying, India has been captured by a fascist, racist, and Hindu supremacist ideology and leadership, thus reflecting his harsh feelings towards the revocation of Kashmir's autonomy. A BBC article published on the 20th of September 2019 suggested that India was reevaluating its nuclear policy, thus making it easier to justify the use of nukes in all cases regarding Kashmir. Furthermore, the article specifically stated that India is upping the rhetoric and that India and Pakistan both combined have 250 nukes between them, and thus it is becoming increasingly easy to mobilize their forces in efforts to promote war. Furthermore, there have been over 2,000 plus breaches of ceasefire by Pakistan in 2019 alone. And furthermore, 45 Pakistanis were found dead at the hands of Indian soldiers, thus in the region of Kashmir. And thus this is promoting the question of war would occur due to Kashmir itself. Furthermore, in Kashmir Valley, Kashmir Valley has experienced a lockdown for over a month now, and President Modi has been claiming that this lockdown was an anti-terrorism measure, and thus using it to justify its use of force in the region of Kashmir. Therefore, due to increased quantity of media rhetoric, increased public opinions towards war, and the revocation of Indian administrated Kashmir's autonomy, it is evident that if a regional war was to occur, the current situation in Kashmir would be the main cause. Thank you.
Started.
The only person who says yeah.
Without like. Thus. I use that. I just use
There's the name is that's the only thing I remember. Your sister gives killer intros.
Really?
Yeah.
It takes up half to make sure that all of them get agree, but she'll make the formative marks of her introduction.
Oh,
It's crazy.
is there anyone else?
No,
Well, that's it, right? Yeah, awesome, we're done.
You crushed it, you crushed it. I didn't see you, but you crushed it.
Good job, everybody.
I got it on my game.
Yep.
Second one.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, we were told that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? So you're not gonna get these questions.
You have to get over
It doesn't matter. I don't know why.
I went to 5 minutes 30 and all. Look at it.
Unless you wanna,
Yeah.
unless you keep saying. I want to see what.
You were 452 then.
I was over 35.
Must have thought you were here chilling.
I did, because it was 4 and I was like, alright, just.
Which one? Okay, yeah. Thank you for warning us.
Oh, you want you before?
Yeah, no, not before, after. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't see it.
I was gonna
I can't say anything about it.
Not even
Where do you-
your favorite senior student.
Why would I say anything to them? It's not you.
Um,